Well, Brad, I'd like to just get right into it with the questions. And can you tell me a little bit about your work experience with juvenile offenders?
I've been in it a long time, Rob. I've been in it about 30 years. So I started back in about 1980 in Southern California. I worked with Hispanic gang members. Then I went to Canada and worked for 5 years, worked with troubled Native children, and then came back to the United States and started working with poor white kids in rural areas. Yeah.
How many kids are you currently working with? What's the age range?
It varies. You can't even answer simple questions like how many kids do you have right now, because the status is always up in the air. There's always turmoil in the lives of these poverty and troubled children. So one might be in the detention center and he'll be released next week, so he's still on my roll. So about 16. If you count the ones that are transitioning in or transitioning out. So, yeah, about 16.
Can you tell me a little bit about, like to define, what is generational poverty?
Ooh, tough question. A lot of good literature on it. From a psychological perspective, what I see is the worst thing is there's a lot of learned helplessness. That's a term in psychology by a psychologist named Martin Seligman. And the bottom line is, in the minds of many of the parents and the children that I work with, they don't see any way out of the predicament that they're in. It's just a circular mess of troubles, and there's no long-term perspective, there's no delayed gratification working towards goals. There's just, this is the way it is, we live moment to moment. So that's kind of what I see.
Does this institution here at the church work better than other institutions that you see?
I would say yes, in a big way. I've done a lot of counseling. A lot of the counselors even have a semi-ingrained notion of don't get emotionally involved. And with kids that don't have anybody, where there aren't a lot of people that are emotionally involved, somebody's got to get a little bit more emotionally involved and say, no, this is my kid, I'm looking after this kid, and act. I think there's a Latin expression called in loco parentis, in place of the parent, like a guardian to the child. And a lot of my counselors do that, and I praise them for it. I think they do a better job. I think the kids bond with them and are much more responsive.
What is the biggest wish you have for the program and for the kids?
Ooh, more people, more resources, more staff. For 30 years, the same mantra, working with disenfranchised poor kids. There are not enough people, there's not enough money. So it's a question of priorities. I think a lot of the states and a lot of our institutions are realizing that if you don't jump in and help the children with institutional poverty with some substantial resources, you're going to spend a lot more on the other end when you're dealing with the problems that they create, because they don't have any skills. And
do you have anything that you would like to convey to the church and to the community?
Oh, the church is marvelous. I hate to be frank with you, but I'm in a church. I should be frank with you. I'm surprised they do it. They're very tough, disruptive children. It takes a lot more than just love or bonding to deal with these kids. It takes hard work and lots of redirection and lots of patience and lots of dealing with stuff that's outrageous and weird and bizarre and just sticking to it. And bless the church and the church membership and church leadership for doing it. It's marvelous.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Or?
No, but if you're a listener out there somewhere, if there is a listener out there somewhere, come join us. There's always a way for them to help us in some regard in the lives of these very needy children.